Hey everyone, Matt Brady here, the Carolina Mortgage Coach. And on this episode of Behind the Closing Table, I'm with Bruce Allen with EXP and the Signature Group. And Bruce has a very unique background and lots of experience in the real estate world. So, Bruce, thanks for being on. And
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for
yeah,
having me.
yes, sir. So, tell everyone a little bit about you, what got you into real estate, and what's currently going on.
Man, there's so much interesting things to say. Where do I start? Um, yeah, I've been in sales my entire adult life, pretty much, from corporate world, high volume, high price sales, and just kind of carried that on to real estate. First, prior to that, I was in corporate, and then went on to own my own business, a craft beer bar, and restaurant, and operated that for over 8 years because I got sick and tired of corporate.
Hmm.
And then, hindsight's 2020, but owning a bar or restaurant's not for the faint of heart. So I got kind of burnt out on that after 8 years and just recently closed that in December of
Okay.
25. So life is kind of new now. It's
Yes,
kind of
sir.
refreshing. A lot big weight lifted.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, and in my spare time or whenever I have spare time, I'm usually pretty busy showing houses and taking care of clients, but I'll travel around, wherever I'm needed to go officiate mixed martial arts fights. So that's kind of a hobby as well. I've done that from the highest levels that you can possibly do it. 20 plus years doing that and over 2,000 some fights. So I moved to Charlotte in 2013 and put down some roots here, and here I am,
Awesome.
still to this day.
Yeah, and you were also same as me. Past, I don't know if you know this. I was a Charlotte firefighter for about just
Oh
under
no, I
10
didn't know
years.
that. Super
Yeah,
cool.
so just under 10 years there, and I was with Fort Mill Fire for 4 years before that.
Nice.
So,
Nice. Yeah, I wish I could have done it longer, but yeah, just had to move and restart that and
hmm,
was kind of tough. So I got into real estate instead.
yeah, well, me too. So,
Yeah.
what were you always with EXP from the beginning, or did you start somewhere else and then?
No, I started out my first couple of years at a boutique firm called Patel Standard Realty. I did well there on my own, but being a solo agent is not for the faint of heart either. It's tough work, a lot of work, but I made the best of it. And it was a great place to cut my teeth to get started for sure, because I had to learn the hard way.
Mhm.
And then I came over to EXP. I've been at EXP for about 5 years, and I joined the Signature Group probably 3 years ago, I think. I was one of the first members of the group, and here we are, still
Yeah,
today in the group. And I really don't ever envision leaving and going anywhere else. It offers so much for what we get, and you know, you,
yeah.
it's good environment to be in. Good
And just from
environment
what
to
I see,
thrive in.
it's really like a family atmosphere. Everyone's
Yeah,
really
yeah, we're all
connected.
pretty close. We're all pretty close. We don't compete with one another. We help one another out. Everybody's really well connected. So if you have a problem, somebody's going to have an answer for you.
Hmm. What do you what do you think? You've been in the industry for a few years now. I'm sure you've seen people come and go. What do you think is a skill set or uh, something that someone underestimates to be successful in this industry?
The biggest thing I think people underestimate to be successful, they go through school, they come out, they think they're going to make $1 million right away. Well, that's not the case. You've got to build a business from the ground up, basically. If you're lucky as a new agent, I would highly suggest finding a good team to get on so they can feed you some leads. Back when I was an individual agent, was when we paid ourselves for Zillow leads. That cost to me was around 1,500 a month just to get some Zillow leads coming in to get my business moving along. Now I'm on a Zillow Flex team, Zillow Preferred team, whatever they're calling it today. Um, they still take a good chunk of your money, but it's a valuable tool to have because it helps build your sphere organically, through those leads, and then they know family, they know friends, and it takes a while to get that going. So the leads that whatever the team would feed you is really good to get you off the ground so you're not having that huge monthly expense. I mean, you can't buy Zillow leads anymore, so you got to find different sources to buy.
Hmm.
But a team, I wish I would have started out on a team, kind of. Um, but I have no regrets. I learned
Yeah.
a lot the hard way and the fast way. The worst thing they don't tell you when you're coming out of school is how much money it's going to cost you.
Hmm.
You know, because it's not a cheap job. You know,
Yeah.
everybody's got their hand out for a fee here, a fee there, or you know, you got to pay for marketing, you got to pay for this, you got to pay for that. So you got to hustle. You know, you've got to.
I think what people underestimate, even in the mortgage side, when they get it, you get someone under contract, you're still not getting paid for 30 to 40 days,
Right.
you know? So
Exactly. You
the
know, so
pipe,
they say in real estate, every day you wake up, you're unemployed, right?
yeah,
Because it takes 30 to 45 days to get your next paycheck, you know, if you don't have
exactly.
anything in the funnel ready to close.
And the foundation you're building now is what's going to be your paycheck in November and December.
Yep,
So
correct.
I
Correct.
think where a lot of agents get in trouble is the cyclical this. They do all the
Yep.
work to get the deals under contract, then they quit the marketing, the activities that got them those deals under contract because now they're dealing with the contracts.
Yep.
So then business goes back down, and it's like a rat race. It's up and down
Yep.
because they're not maintaining the activities that got them the contracts because they're too focused on the contracts and everything like that.
Correct. A lot of people take their eye off the ball, you know, and don't keep the train running. I mean, you still have to beat the pavement. You get one under contract, you got to go get another one under contract, so on and so forth. It's just a perpetual, never-ending cycle.
Yeah. So, you've been in here a few years and, even in 8 years being in real estate, you've seen different markets. We're in a different market than we were even last year or two
Yeah,
years ago.
for sure.
When you're having conversations with buyers and sellers now, I'm sure it's two different conversations. How you how are you leading those conversations? Or, what are the big issues that you're dealing with and how are you overcoming those?
I guess one of the biggest pushbacks is, oh, I want to wait until interest rates come down. Well, they don't understand they're not going to come back down to the 2 and 3% rates we saw in COVID. We'll be lucky if we see 4%, in my
Mhm.
opinion. So to overcome that objection, you know, we're in one of the hottest markets in the country today, you know, over 130 people a day moving into the Charlotte metro area. Where they're all going, I have no idea, but they're going somewhere. So with that objection, you got to look at it, you know, reasonably. Like, housing market's always going to go up in Charlotte for the long term anyway, from what we can see. So every day they wait for interest rates to come back down, house pricings is going up.
Mhm.
So in the long run, you're better off to finance it now at today's interest rate, or, you know, I can negotiate a deal where you can successfully buy down your rate as well, just to keep them moving, and then get into the house now and refinance in a couple years. You know, when
Mhm.
rates do come down, then you're ahead of the curve when houses pricings explode again. You know, because
Exactly.
COVID was a rat race. It was a mess. You know,
Mhm.
it was like dog eat dog.
Mhm.
And, you know, I don't think we're going to experience that again in quite a while, but
And that's what is catching a few of the people now is they overpaid so much for their
yep,
homes and now a life change has happened and they need
yep,
to sell and they're not in the equity position to be where they thought they would be.
yep.
They
I'm
might break
dealing.
even. They might break even after fees and everything like that,
Yeah, correct.
but they're not seeing the big, I guess, profit that they thought they were going to get
Right.
going.
I'm dealing with that right now on one of my listings. You know, they come in and, you know, I knew going up right out of the gate we were priced on the higher side, but, you know, just test the market and see. But we've had to make quite a few adjustments because he did buy in 2022 and he did overpay in 2022 and it
Mhm.
didn't appreciate as much as he thought it would, you know? So now he's kind of realizing, oh, this is the real world now. And, you know, I'm under contract on another house. So we got to get this one sold, right?
Yeah. So how do you deal with that? How do you lead that conversation as more of an experienced agent now, where you're going into a listing agreement or a listing, and the stats say it's this, but the seller is pushing for this. How do you set expectations? How do you handle that conversation with your?
That's pretty much almost every listing appointment. All sellers, you know, like all ducks think their baby's the cutest. They think their house is worth way more than what it is because it's sentimental to them. They've
Hmm.
got emotions tied up into it, and that's one of the ways I always coach my clients. I'm like, buying and selling, no matter what you're doing, is an emotional process. I don't care what it is. There's some emotion involved in it. And especially with a house, since it's your biggest purchase of your life, it's best to look at it like a business transaction and take all the emotions out of it. Everything will go so much smoother. Eventually, the stress and the anxiety is going to pile up, but that's kind of where we come in as well. We're not just real estate agents. We're psychologists, we're psychiatrists, we're counselors,
Hmm.
we're marriage counselors, we're everything.
Hmm.
I've been on the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes talking wives off the ledge.
Hmm.
And their husband always says, "Thank God for you. You saved my marriage." But I just go in with facts. I'm
Hmm.
I'm a straight shooter. And I tell my clients, if you want to be told what you want to hear, I'm not the guy for you to be working with because I'm going to tell you the facts and the truth and what will get us to the closing table. And it's your choice if you want to listen to me.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, we have a fiduciary duty to our clients. So you try to educate them as much as you can, but we kind of have to do what they tell us to do at the end of the day. And then you just kind of have to hope they see the light, in a couple weeks when they don't have any activity on the house. And you're like, hey, time to do a price adjustment or relook at this.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just with facts. I don't
Yeah.
go in slinging BS. I just go in with facts.
Okay. Awesome. So, with more and more first-time home buyers entering the market, how do you lead those conversations, or what is something that these buyers think is so important, then at the end of the day, maybe is not as big as a deal as they're making it out to be? What do you focus on with them?
I try to skirt the interest rate issue right up front because that's the biggest focus for most of them. They're
Hmm.
fixated on the interest rates.
Yeah.
And I always remind them, I'm like, hey, I bought my first house back in 1992, and I think my interest rate was 11%. So you don't have it bad.
Yeah.
You're like in a normal interest rate now.
Hmm.
So that kind of calms them down a little bit.
Yeah. Definitely. Um. So, is there an underestimate, or not underestimated, but something that people, that when they're thinking about listing their home, that they should do, like when in terms of renovations or adding value to their home? What do you think are the top three that you get the most value back on your home, or can make the biggest difference when you're going to list your home, especially in this market right now where no one, everyone wants turnkey. They don't
Yeah,
want a
yeah.
house that needs a lot
Right.
of work. So where are
100%.
you having your listings, or your clients that are listing their home? What three areas do you tell them to focus on to really, increase that curb appeal? Or if there's a few houses in your neighborhood, how do you make your house stand out?
Yeah, correct. I mean, first and foremost is pricing it correctly out of the gate,
Hmm.
because the longer it sits overpriced, the less momentum, you lose momentum over time. Um, but cosmetically, a few of the ones I think, outside curb appeal, keep your
Yeah.
yard mowed, clean up your bushes, clean up leaves, clean up sticks, just make it look presentable as you have the inside looking.
Yeah.
Then you move to the inside. Two of the biggest things that are easy and inexpensive to do if it needs to be done is paint
Hmm.
and carpet or flooring, you know. Those are
Hmm.
the two biggest things inside. Redoing cabinets is a bigger venture. It just depends on the house and how much they want to invest in it to get it ready. But
Hmm.
the two easiest things to start with are just paint and flooring.
Okay. Now, with new construction able to throw out incentives that, is hard for people to compete with, are you having the conversations in the beginning with sellers of maybe putting some type of package of seller credits together to offer the buy downs from the beginning that can make it more enticing? Or is that more wait and see how the market responds and then you get
Yeah.
into it.
I'm more wait and see how the market responds, but you coach them on that up front. Like, hey, here's a scenario. This is what might happen. They may come back and ask for seller credits. Or as we get down the line and activity's slow, maybe we want to look at throwing a home warranty at it, or maybe
Mhm.
we want to look at throwing some small credits at it for this or that or whatever. A lot of agents list, oh, here's a $3,000 flooring credit. Here's a $3,000 paint credit. But in all reality, they can use that credit for whatever they want.
Mhm.
It's a credit.
Yeah.
It comes off their bottom line at closing. So I
Mhm.
don't know why they differentiate that. It's very confusing to me, but
Yeah.
maybe it just kind of smooths over if you got, bright orange shag carpet, it gives them, okay, I got this money to replace it
Yeah.
then.
And
Yeah.
do you go over with them that, sometimes the first thing people go to is a price cut, where it's
Yep.
like that same price cut in a seller credit is usually way more meaningful to a buyer than, a $10,000 drop in price, depending on where interest rates are in the loan amount, might be $60 to $70 a month. But a
Yep.
$10,000 seller credit, that's actual cash that they're not bringing to the table or they can use to buy down the interest rate. That could
Right.
be way more than $60, $70 a month. So are you having those
100% correct.
conversations too with them about the difference between,
I
or
do
even with
that.
your buyers?
Yeah, I do that mostly with my buyers because
Hmm.
I deal probably 80% with first-time home buyers. Um, so when it comes to doing an offer, I go over the terms. Okay, we can offer it this way, price reduction, or we can offer it minimal price reduction or keep it where it's at, or even maybe have to bump it up above a list to get the
Hmm.
credits you need to close.
Yeah.
Because I explained it exactly how you did. $10,000 out of your own pocket, out of your own cash is going to hit you harder than $10,000 off the list price.
Hmm.
So it's my goal to get you to the closing table with as little money out of pocket as possible. And I'm pretty good at it. I've
Yeah.
had some guys walk out of closing with $3,500 in cash. Not cash, but they get a
Yeah.
check to buy a house, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of how you negotiate. Most of my vets, they walk away from closing with a check.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think an underutilized thing in terms of veterans that, it's definitely a misunderstood loan product out there. But I think one of the most underestimated things, it's one of the only loan products that allows seller credits to pay off your debt
Yeah.
that, could be extremely valuable to a veteran, and, a lot of people don't know that, hey, we can use that in so many ways when
Yeah.
you're using a VA loan and you're getting
Yep.
those credits.
And that's what I
Um,
tell them. I go, whatever you want, you tied to this loan, you can use that money for it.
yeah,
Want to buy
definitely.
your rate down, buy your rate down. You want to put a new roof on, put a new roof on.
Yeah.
It's just there for your use. I use an inspection company which helps out my clients a lot, especially
Hmm.
first-time home buyers, because they kind of choke at the fact of spending $700 or $900 on a
Yeah.
home inspection right after they just signed a contract for a $500,000 house.
Yeah.
So he allows them to pay at closing. So then they can dip into those seller credits and it's not a big hit to them. So
Yeah.
that's really handy.
I want to ask you this because, with first time home buyers, kind of how we went back to that question of stuff that, they overvalue or maybe is not as important. How do you handle the inspections with first time home buyers that see a 30-page document and think, what am I buying?
A
With all the
30 page a 30-page document would be great. That's a good report. Most of them are 50, 60,
yeah.
70 pages long. So I kind of coach them prior to that because I say, hey, look, there's going to be a lot of stuff in this inspection report that's in almost 95% of all other inspection reports, and it's no big deal. So please let me review it before you even open it, and then we'll have a call to go over it so I
Hmm.
can direct you to the important stuff and
Hmm.
kind of direct you away from the leaky faucet or the door that won't close quite right or something
Yeah.
like that, because they'll get tied up in all the details and freak out.
Yeah.
And that's
The
what,
light in the microwave, the light
yeah,
bulb in the microwave.
100% every single time, 100%. Or, the electrical box is not fire sealed every
Yeah.
100% of the time, and they're
Yeah.
like, oh my God. Or they don't understand
Yeah.
why there's no smoke detectors in the house, and they want them to put them in there. I'm like, no, they're not going to do it because when the house was built,
Yeah.
that wasn't code, and that's
And
going to be their response.
you got to remember the inspector has his insurance, so he
Yep.
has to have everything on there because he's
Yep.
liable if he didn't detail something
Yep.
in there.
And I
So,
tell him that as well. I'm like, he's got to cover absolutely everything he sees because he has to cover his own tail for liability reasons, you know.
mhm.
So just keep a very open mind, and it's not going to be as bad as you think.
Yeah, definitely.
But I
So,
love that process though too, because I consider it a total second source of negotiation, of course, right?
yeah,
And I enjoy it. I look
yeah,
forward to that process. You know, just because I've been in sales for a long, long
mhm,
time, I love negotiating the
yeah,
art of the deal, so to
yeah.
say.
Well, as for me, I try to be very involved, mortgage advisor to people. So I work with my agents when they're coming up with the deal and, they're talking about, all right, well, let's balance, asking for seller credits, what's a good number or how
Yep.
to structure it with down payment and everything like that. And the one thing I remind the buyer is like, I know you want to win every negotiation, but the contract's just one of many that's going to happen over the next 30 days. So
Yep.
you don't want to put a sour pill in anyone's mouth with this first negotiation. You want to be
Right.
respectful and everything like that
Right.
because it's going to be, you might win this first one, but like you talked about, inspections are going to come. What if an appraisal comes in short? There are more
Yep.
negotiations along the way. So you want some goodwill there and
Yep.
not, be in a with Fitz with the UFC ref not being in a match, in the octagon fighting, the whole time all the way through.
Yeah, and I try to coach my clients on that as well because, I mean, people are still thinking it's a buyer's market, a solid buyer's market, and it's not. I
Hmm.
think it's a fairly even market right now. It's a buyer-seller market,
Yeah,
just depending on the seller's position in their house.
yeah,
I tell them don't they all want to go in low ball, they want to go. I'm like, okay, here's the deal. They're either going to accept it, they're going to counter, or they're going to shut down completely on you and you're not going to hear anything from them because you offended them. And
hmm,
they think you're too low and will never come to terms. So let's structure this to where it works for both parties, develop a win-win situation to where you're kind of coming out with the benefit.
hmm,
And keep in mind, you got these other sources of negotiation in the future, 2 or 3 weeks down the line. So you'll make out probably a little bit better than you did off the offer.
yeah. I saw a funny, like one of those cartoon videos on Facebook. There's a perfect example for this today. It was a guy talking to the real estate agent. They're like, we want to go 400K under ask, but we're going to waive all inspections and it's a cash
Yeah.
offer. But you're $400,000
Yeah.
under ask. That doesn't really matter.
I had a client like that. I showed them houses for over a year and showed them probably 100 plus homes. And they were $1 million plus buyer and
Mhm,
they were cash. So they came in with that same attitude, like we can go offer them way lower than what they're asking for because we're a cash buyer and we can close in 2 weeks. Well, people don't,
you can close
the cash
financing in
buyers,
2 weeks now, you
yeah,
know?
and that's what I tell them. I'm like, cash buyers aren't that significant anymore. It's
Mhm,
nice, but conventional loan's about the same. You can close it in 2 weeks. Who cares?
yeah.
So conserve your cash, put a big down payment and finance, a little bit to get the
Mhm,
tax benefits and stuff, but you can't go in lowballing them. That doesn't work anymore.
yeah.
You've got to be realistic if you want this house. And that's
Especially if it
why
just came on the market. That.
yes, exactly. And I always do a deep dive when I'm showing them the houses as well. I pull up the tax records and I tell them
Mhm,
the history. Oh, it's been on the market for a day. You're going to have to be aggressive if you want this house because it's in a prime area and it's going to go quick.
mhm.
Or, you know what? It's been on the market for 80 days. I think we've got some room and it's listed for 700,000, but they only owe 300,000 on it. I think we're in a really good position.
Well, I do like those 80 days on market. Then all of a sudden, when you go to look at the house, oh, I think we're getting an
Oh,
offer today. I think we're getting an offer.
I tell all my clients because it never fails. It literally never fails. I'm like, you've got to make a choice on this house because since I've showed it, it will go under contract in the next day or two. I guarantee you. And it never fails. And all I can say is, I told you so.
Yeah, exactly. So with you kind of mentioned this with your client before, um, and maybe we've already touched on it, but is there any additional advice? A growing segment right now is not just first time home buyers, it's first time sellers. So, is that a different conversation than someone that sold a few times, or are you
Yeah,
having basically the same
tailor
conversation?
you tailor it different, but it's basically the same information, right? You can tell first-time home buyers all the details and they'll soak them all in.
Hmm.
And then you've got your client that sold 5, 10, 11 houses and they know everything there is to know, and you're not going to convince them otherwise.
Hmm.
So it's really from one end of the spectrum to the other. And then
Okay.
you just have to do your best job to navigate around those clients that know everything with data and pure facts,
Yeah.
because those don't lie.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
and being in sales for as long as I've been, I'm really driven by numbers and statistics, and trends, because trends always repeat themselves.
I,
May not
well,
be today or tomorrow, but they're going to repeat themselves.
mhm. I think a underestimated conversation that maybe not an experienced agent like yourself would have is, when you're talking to these first time sellers, it's like, well, what's your plan for your next house? Are you trying to be contingent? Are you trying to be non contingent? Do you have this equity position in your house? What's your goal there that they might not have dealt with before? Oh,
Right.
what's a contingent offer? Well, like going through, well, what's the plan after this house? Because I'm sure then that also is a factor in how you price a home,
Yeah.
depending on the factor of what they need to do for the next home.
For sure. And that's one of the leading questions in an interview as well. It's like, okay, what are your plans after you sell this house? For one, I want to know if you're buying another house, because I definitely want to sell you that.
Hmm.
Or are you moving out of the state for a job transfer and you got to sell it really quick? Or, God forbid, unfortunately, are you behind on your payments and you want to move this house fast?
Yeah.
There's multiple different scenarios that you have to dig and ask. I use this all the time, and a mentor of mine told me this, and it stuck with me over the years. When I first got into sales, he says, God gave you two eyes, two ears, and one mouth for a reason. And I always put that in practice. Look and listen more than you talk, and you're going to get way more information out of them.
Hmm.
The thing that drives me crazy is these salespeople who just sit down and they just vomit information and they don't listen.
Hmm.
You're missing so much by doing that.
You don't know
Just,
what the problem is that you're going to
yeah,
offer the solution to,
right, right. Just listen to your clients and they're going to tell you what you want to hear
Hmm.
without regurgitating everything,
Yeah.
because then they're probably going to shut down.
Hmm. Definitely. People, once you get them going, I'm sure as you've had these conversations, they start telling you everything, especially on my side, the finance side. It's all
Oh, yeah.
they start letting everything out.
Well, is that true? I think a lot of them hide stuff from you at first,
Well,
thinking you're not going to find it.
they try to, but that's why I try to build that rapport in the beginning, and set that standard of there's going to be multiple checks throughout this process.
And that's what I
So,
do with my
yeah,
buyers as well. I'm like, be straight up and honest with him. I don't care what it is.
I'm
Tell
not here
your
to judge
lender.
you. Like, I'm not going to put
No,
your stats on a billboard and
yeah,
say, so
we're
and
not
so,
gonna.
this is their credit score. This is how much money they have. I'm not going to call your mom and be like, can you believe this is how much money they have saved?
Yeah, but they're
It's,
gonna find out if you have
yeah,
a hidden loan out there somewhere. They're gonna find out if you went out and bought furniture the day
yeah,
before closing, and just don't do that. Once you go under
yeah,
contract, don't take out any loans, don't get any new credit cards, don't go buy any
yeah.
cars, do nothing.
We're like,
Do it all after you close.
yeah,
They don't care after that
yeah.
point.
Yeah, like people are like, how long is my pre-approval good for? And I'm like, as long as the factors of your employment and your credit stay the same. We might
Yeah.
need updated pay stubs to prove that, but
Yep.
as long as your job stays the same, you get paid the same way, you didn't add any new credit, you didn't miss any payments, it should last as long as you need. Now we'll need updated pay stubs to secure that, but
Yep.
that's a thing right there. So, as we get to the end, I like to do a little spitball of real estate myths. So I'm going to say it and you say fact or myth. And then if you want to dive and give
All
a
right.
1 second response on it, well, you can give your 1 second response. You need 20% down.
No, myth.
Spring is always the best time to sell.
Uh, I would say that's a myth. I mean, it's a very busy time to sell, but I think close to the holidays too is a good time to sell because a lot of people are looking to get settled into their new home before
Mhm,
Thanksgiving and Christmas come upon us because they want to celebrate it in their new home. So, yeah, spring's great and the holidays are great.
mhm. We kinda talked about this, so I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but we'll still ask, should you wait for rates to drop?
No, absolutely not.
I'm sure this is a situational dependent, but we'll let you determine what renovate means, but you should renovate before selling.
Yeah, that's a very loose word, you know. Renovate comes off as like gut it, you know, do replace the kitchen, replace this, just totally redo the whole house. And a lot of times that's not necessary, you know. You
Mhm.
just go in and coach them and look around. Okay, take all these personal pictures down, repaint this wall because it's purple, you know, or repaint your front door because it's pink. Yeah,
Yeah.
simple stuff like that, you know. But if it needs renovated, they either
I
want to
think
do it or they don't.
I think that should be should you invest in your home before selling, and then that
Yeah,
level of investment can be determining on what it needs.
fact.
Open houses sell homes.
Ugh, I think that's agent dependent, you know?
Mhm,
I mean, personally, myself, I've had terrible luck with open houses, so I don't really focus on them, you know?
mhm,
Um, a lot of agents do them all the time because they have good luck with them. So I
mhm.
guess it's just dependent. Myself, unfortunately, I haven't had good luck with them.
Yeah,
So I don't focus on them, you know? And a lot of agents just do them knowing that they're not going to get the house sold out of that open house, but they're gonna get new contacts, and that's their
yeah.
primary goal, right?
I think the biggest thing is for newer agents because I think
Yeah,
what the skill set that is underestimated is the ability to have conversations and
yeah,
deal with different conversations. So it gets
yes.
you in front of people you may not have gotten in front of before and at least
And
practice
that's
your skill set.
how I coach new agents. I'm in the EXP mentor program, so I coach them that way as well. I'm like, it may work, it may not work for you, but it's definite needed practice to hold open houses. You know,
Mhm,
first you got to hold open houses to learn how to talk to people and learn the probing questions to ask. And I'm happy to even do it with you to guide you through it, you know.
mhm,
Um, and second is beat the phones. You know, you got to get used to being uncomfortable in this business 100%.
mhm.
And that's what a lot of new agents don't understand right out of the gate. They come out thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna make a lot of money right away." Well, no, you're not. Not if you don't have those 2 abilities, you know, just to pick up the phone and call people or talk to people face
Yeah.
to face at an open house.
I think it's getting to that mindset of get the no's out of the way so you can get to the yeses. So
Yep.
you gotta be willing, you gotta have soft skin because some of those people are gonna yell at you on the phone. They're not yelling at you, they're yelling at the situation
No,
of
you
what
gotta
they're
have
in.
tough
Yeah.
skin.
Yeah.
You gotta have tough skin because you're in sales no matter what you're doing, you're gonna get far more no's than you are yeses.
Mhm.
And that's just something you have to understand. You have to understand the sales process, you know. Coming in, you're not gonna get a ton of buyers, a ton of sellers right away because I mean, they say in average, it takes an average salesperson a year to get up to speed. I
Mhm.
think it can be a little bit quicker in real estate if you have the right tools and the right people behind you, but still, it's not gonna happen right away. I was lucky in my first 30 days, I closed my first house,
Yeah.
you know, so I was very fortunate, you know, and I set a goal to do 1 a month in my first year, which I hit, you know, that goal just keeps going up year over year.
Mhm.
So you have to be persistent and you have to be patient.
Now, the last one is the highest offer is always the best offer.
No, myth.
All right. Awesome. So that was some quick fire. Now,
I
before
like
we
that. Let's do more.
yeah. That might be a little segment we can run. We'll come up with
Yeah,
some myths every week and
yeah,
we
that's
can run
cool.
through them. So, kind of going off the show, when people walk away from the closing table, what do you want them to remember about their experience of working with Bruce?
I want to remember that I became a friend And I'm not a pushy salesperson. I'm more laid back. I always tell them, I said, I'm not going to shove a house down your throat, and I'm not going to be the agent that only shows you four and says you have to pick,
Mhm.
and that helps. I'm from Iowa. I drive a truck. I go to showings in a polo shirt. I'm not an agent that wears $2,000 shirts and drives a $150,000 vehicle. I try to be down to earth because pattern yourself towards your client, right? How they are, because it makes them feel more comfortable and at ease. If you're selling a $6 million house, okay, I might put on a sport jacket, but I'm still going to show up in my truck.
Yeah.
The process is still the same,
Hmm.
and yeah, that's
Awesome.
it. Just be yourself. Don't put on a show. People relate to you if you're yourself. They
Hmm.
can see through the BS and whether you're putting on a show or not. It's pretty easy. And walking away from the closing table, I always tell them, this isn't the end of us. I'm still here for you if you need anything. And by all means, if you have a housewarming party, I'm expected to get an invite. You know, I'm friends with a number of my clients where we do stuff together.
Awesome.
So sales is 100% relationship building.
Hmm. So if someone's listening to this, whether they are, a buyer, seller, or maybe they're thinking about joining and looking for a mentor or something like that, what's the best way for someone to get in contact?
Um, they can either call me directly or text me directly. I don't know if you want me to give my phone number
Yeah,
right now.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So my phone number is 949-300-6437. Or you can email me at bruce.allen@exprealty.com. And then there's all the other social channels
Hmm.
out there. I don't want to go through and list
Yeah.
them all off, but
Just text him or call him. He'll answer
yeah,
the phone, he'll answer your text. And if you
yeah, I'm,
call, leave voicemail. People hate leaving voicemails. He needs to know that you're not trying to sell him insurance, and real
yeah.
estate
Now,
agents will know
in
that.
today's day and age, you've got to leave a voicemail, because if I don't know the number, I'm not answering it,
Mhm,
and the nice thing that AT or T-Mobile and maybe other carriers do now, they have that call screening, and my call screening's on because, as to your point, we get so many scam calls day in and day out all day long.
mhm,
And to remain productive and efficient for my clients, I can't answer them,
mhm.
and I look at it, if it's important, they're going to leave a message and I
Yeah.
will definitely call you back.
So if you're not going to leave a voicemail, at least leave a text so he
Yeah, I'll
knows who
answer
you are.
text all night long, you know?
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for your time today, Bruce. Thanks
Yeah,
for
man.
everyone watching today. This was our latest episode of Behind the Closing Table with Bruce. Make sure to reach out to him and be on the lookout for your next UFC fight. If you go follow him on social media, and you might be able to go see him ref a UFC bout.
Yeah.
So thanks for your time today, everybody. Have a great day, and thank you, Bruce.
All right, man. Thank you. My pleasure.
Bye.